We are just hours away from massive tariffs being hit from the United States to Canada to the tune of 25%. And while this threat looms, Canada's government still dwindles. Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Brian Lilley and Warren Kinsella. Brian, we can complain as much as we want that the U.S. Is over the top about their claims on the trade deficit between Canada and the United States. We can be upset that anytime President Trump puts a truth out there, we have to react. But the fact remains, Canada does not have a thoughtful, comprehensive, reasonable response yet, in part because we have a dysfunctional federal government. No parliament is sitting. So, what is the latest that we know about any response Canada has?
Very little. Apparently, we sent them video of the Canada-US border. Hey guys, here's some TV footage of the Canada-US border. I'm sorry, shouldn't have you done that months ago? It's you're pulling the all-nighter for your essay while the professor's waiting for you to deliver. Seems a bit too little, too late. We know that Saskatchewan, Scott Moe, the premier there, posted photos of his highway patrol teams and conservation officers and others going to the border. In Ontario, 200 officers, helicopters. The big response is still coming from the provinces on the border. And, look, we've been trying to parse what Trump means. Is it about the border? Is it not? We got some clarity from Howard Lutnick. He is Trump's nominee for U.S. Commerce Secretary. He was before the Commerce Department. A lot of thoughtful questions from Democrats and Republicans surrounding AI and China, but also some very thoughtful ones on Canada and why the tariffs. And Lutnick finally gave some clarity. Yeah, the 25% tariffs are about the border, but there's other ones. Here he is.
So the big tariff view is going to be studied, and the president launched that in an executive order where he asked the Commerce Department and the USTR to study the tariff model long term. The short term issue is illegal migration and, worse even still, fentanyl coming into this country and killing over 100,000 Americans. There's no war we could have that would kill 100,000 Americans. The president is focused on ending fentanyl coming into the country. You know that the labs in Canada are run by Mexican cartels. So this tariff model is simply to shut their borders with respect America. If we are your biggest trading partner, show us the respect, shut your border, and end fentanyl coming into this country. So it is not a tariff per se. It is an action of domestic policy. Shut your border and stop allowing fentanyl into our country, killing our people. So this is a separate tariff to create action from Mexico and action from Canada. And as far as I know, they are acting swiftly. And if they execute it, there will be no tariff. And if they don't, then there will be. But it's an action-oriented model. That's not the ordinary tariff. The ordinary tariffs need to be studied and examined, and that will start, as the EO said, in April.
So, Adrienne, he was upfront. You can avoid the 25% tariffs if you do what we want on the border. And he talked about how there are the Mexican cartels are running fentanyl operations in Canada. That's been verified time and again. How much is going across the border, we can debate, but they're operating here. But here's the problem. We're not going to escape all tariffs. Even if we escape them or finally get them removed at some point, they're viewing this as tariffs will be used to bring production back to America. And if you listen to the whole clip that I've posted on X, Lutnick disputes claims that tariffs will drive up inflation and cause prices to go up in the United States. They simply don't believe it.
Warren, I want to know from your perspective that apparently, according to some media commentators in Canada, we're not even allowed to question what the U.S. is asking of us. And look, we can certainly poke holes in the veracity of their claims about our trade deficit. I think we can certainly just look at what it is that is why we're so under their skin. I think those are all reasonable appropriate conversations to have. But I'm wondering, from your perspective, we know that the premiers have stepped into the breach, and kudos to them. We can quibble with how, who is saying what and signing on to what communique, but they've stepped up, all of them. And the fact that we have a prorogued parliament, the fact that the Liberals are in their own political turmoil, Canada is, Trudeau's traveling around the world on his farewell tour, I suppose. This is a big problem, and we're hours away from it potentially happening. No national response.
Yeah, if I I used to advise a prime minister. If I was still advising a prime minister, this all the woulda, coulda, shoulda stuff, it's just going to get us nowhere. As Brian has pointed out many times, one of the critical mistakes we made as a country under successive governments is to allow our trade with the United States of America to grow to be 80% of our export capacity. Huge mistake, but it's too late to fix that overnight. I'm sick and tired as well of people trying to figure out the psychology of Donald Trump. Is this art of the deal? Does he really mean it on fentanyl, etc.? It's all too late for that. And, they're all scrambling and doing different things. And God bless them all. None of it's going to have any impact, as Lutnick said yesterday when he appeared before Congress. To me, if I was advising a prime minister right now, I would be saying to him or to her, we need to be focused on the future. We need to be looking at a different trade percentage with the rest of the world. We need to be looking at our military defense, because I think NATO is in great peril. We can no longer assume that the as Stephen Harper, as Prime Minister Harper said, we can no longer assume that the United States of America is our best friend. We need to be focused on the future and not doing all this analysis of the past. We need to be focused on that. Unfortunately, Liberal Party of Canada is focused on its own navel and its leadership campaign. The only guy who really, and I give him a lot of credit, is talking about the future is Pierre Poilievre, but he's not in power at the moment. So we're, really between a rock and a hard place.
That's right.
But that's where we should be focused on as a country, is on the future, not the past.
Brian, there are very specific sectors that the U.S. has taken issue with on our trade. We know that at the time when he was president in 2018, President Trump renegotiated NAFTA with Canada and Mexico. The now USMCA is about to be opened up yet again. That puts Canada in yet another vulnerable position. And I think Warren brings up such an important point of looking at all of our trade corridors and opening up more of them. I remember back in Prime Minister Harper days, we had great negotiations going with South Korea, for example. But we have a current prime minister that has shut down pipelines, shut down LNG requests from European countries. We've sort of become very insular that way, and we're not looking outward. Now is not the time to do that. We have to do that. But there are industry-specific issues the U.S. has taken issue with, aren't there not? Are there not?
Well, immediately after, or shortly after, we all ratified the new NAFTA, the new USMCA or CUSMA, whatever you want to call it. The Americans said, "Hey, wait a minute, you're not playing by the rules. We came to an agreement." Let me roll another clip of Lutnick because people are confused about why they keep raising dairy. So here he is describing how they view our dairy industry in the United States.
What would you say to Wisconsin farmers, Wisconsin manufacturers who are concerned about their exports, their supply chains, and retaliatory tariffs?
Our farmers, our ranchers, and our fishermen are the best in the world, and they are treated poorly. Canada, as we spoke about, treats our dairy farmers horribly. That's got to end. That's got to end. And if Canada is going to rely on America for its economic growth, how about you treat our farmers, our ranchers, and our fishermen with respect? And so I think the president and our Trump administration is going to improve the lives and is focused on improving the lives of our producers, our farmers, our ranchers, and our fishermen. These are vital. So I'm going to work hard to make sure, as an example, for your dairy farmers, they do much, much better in Canada than they've ever done before. And that is a key focus of this administration.
And can you commit to the American people that prices will not go up?
I can commit that the economy of the United States of America will be much, much better. A particular product's price may go up, but all of them, this is not inflationary. The two top countries with tariffs, India and China, do have the most tariffs and no inflation. It is just a nonsense that tariffs cause inflation. It is nonsense.
So, Adrienne, I keep getting, well, we can't give up supply management for them. But they didn't ask for that. Or, well, we don't export milk to the United States, so he's lying. What they're talking about, and this is my problem with so many Canadian commentators and too many Canadian politicians, the Americans say, hey, we've got a problem with you. And the response is, no, you don't, you're lying. Well, you know, if you did that in a marriage, and this is essentially a marriage, you'd be divorced really quickly, because if you just keep yelling, no, you're wrong all the time, it's not going to work. So under the new NAFTA, we had negotiated a certain way of allowing American milk exports, which are not sold for milk consumption, they're put into cheese production. We had allowed for that. And then, according to the Americans, their view is we changed the rules. They won the first panel, we won the second panel, and it's still being litigated. So of course they're going to be angry. $500 million a year of Wisconsin milk was suddenly cut off from the Canadian market under rules that they thought allowed it, and that the first panel said, yes, they did. On auto parts, we came to an agreement to try and tighten up so that there was more goods going in from the three countries inside the trade agreement, Canada, the US, and Mexico. And shortly thereafter, the Americans went, wait a minute, you're allowing in too many parts from China and elsewhere and calling it Canadian or Mexican. We want it to come from these three countries. You're being too liberal. We fought them on it. We keep fighting them on things that they believe are in the agreement. And in that last one, I don't know why we would. We want more Canadian components, rather than Chinese components going into the cars. So we are fighting them on things and pretending that everything's great and it's just them making it up. These trade panels, by the way, on dairy and autos, that was brought about by the Biden administration. The list of trade irritants that the Americans have does not change based on who's in power in Washington. Both parties are annoyed. And then one final point. The Trudeau government passed 3 bills over the last little while. The Online News Act, the Online Streaming Act, and the Digital Sales Tax. They see all 3 of those as an assault on American big tech, and they are determined to make sure that those companies are successful because it's part of their trade war and geopolitical war with China. We are annoying them on many fronts, and to pretend otherwise is foolish. Are there ways that we can say to them, how do we come up on a deal with this? What do you want from us? Where can we find common ground? That's how we're going to come out of this. So, stop putting your head in your sand, people.
Final thoughts, Warren. There is still so much that is yet to unpack with respect to this sector-wide, industry-wide. As many of our readers know, we get opinion pieces from various organizations across Canada in different sectors. I'm flooded with them right now from various industries saying, hey, this is how tariffs are going to impact us. Where's the federal response? I've got about a dozen of those in my inbox right now. And I think in part, it's industries from coast to coast are wondering, what is Canada going to do? February 1st rolls around, Warren, looking to the future. Those tariffs come. What does it look like? What happens next?
Well, I was in Alberta for the past couple of days and met with some very smart people from the oil patch, where you and I are from, Adrienne. And it felt to me like I was in a waiting room at a hospital, and everybody's waiting for the doctor to come in to say whether the patient is dead or not. And that is not a strategy. Hope is not a strategy. Sitting around and hoping that you're going to change their mind is failure. We need to assume that they're telling the truth. Lutnick was very specific yesterday, zeroing in on dairy and so on. So we can do our best and try and address their concerns. But my advice is, as I said a few minutes ago, is stop trying to figure out their psychology. Stop betting the house on what you think they're going to do. start preparing the country for a different type of trade and different volumes of trade with the rest of the world. It is a new world. With this guy as president of the United States, the only thing that's predictable about him is his unpredictability. So we are fools if we sit around and think that we're going to change his mind because of this and that or the other thing. We need to focus on broadening our approach to the planet and changing the way we do trade. And if we don't, we're going to be real sorry.
Well, it's high time that we thought about Canada first. Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and go to the torontosun.com. You'll find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.